meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I'm very grateful to God for this church and for all I am learning here. Today I want to say how thankful I am for the weekly lessons. I've gained so much from them and also what has been written on that week's forum. Each new week keeps building upon what the previous week brought out, and it's so wonderful. One of my favorite parts of the week is writing a post on the forum. That simple act forces me to really look at the lesson in different ways and to ask God what I'm supposed to gain from it. It's a real treasure that this church offers us a way to contribute in that manner. Often I only have a small thought that initially gets me writing things down. And then as I continue, God gives me new insight. It's only through that process that I end up with a finished post, and they always give me way more than it took for me to write it. And then above that, to be able to go on and read what others have written always provides thoughts and perspectives that are so helpful to me. And finally, topping that off with the Bible studies and roundtables, and it's very much an apprenticeship in Christian Science that Plainfield offers. I'm so grateful for all that God is bringing me through Christian Science and this church. Everything I've learned here has served to give me more peace, joy, purpose, and appreciation for the Bible and science and health. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for those healing readings tonight and the beautiful music. Tonight I want to express my gratitude for the many lessons that I have been learning here that are helping me to be more useful for God. I now start my day with God and using many of the things found on our website. Today, very early, we had road workers at our door letting us know that shortly they were going to be digging up the road in front of our driveway and we were not going to be able to get in or out. There was a flurry of activity to get everyone going, get cars out, and I needed to pop out and do an errand. In the past, I would allow this kind of thing to unnerve and pressure me. I found myself starting to feel the need to rush, but this time right away I stopped that, knowing that that was not God-like and that was not going to help me and it's not listening to God, and turned my thought to trusting to God to unfold my day and my time. And instead I used the time to pray for others. I was near a school, so I prayed for the school. I've learned to pray for the workers and the work that's being done around your house and your neighborhood and the world. By the time I did get back, I could not get into my driveway, even though they said that they would wait. But I was able to find a place across the street, and there was perfect timing before everything was kind of blocked off. I was able to get finished all that I needed to do that morning in a peaceful manner despite these interruptions. I was very grateful for the timing and order and the space that was there. It just was so beautifully how it fell together without me needing to put my hand in it or worry about it. But this lesson to me is really priceless, because this is the only place on earth in all the years that I have searched and looked and tried and read and visited that could help me find this peace and learn how to get to that place of peace. And the true Christian Science that's taught here and the practitioner help that helped me break many deep, fearful habits so that I could start practicing this new sense. I am very grateful to Christ Jesus, to Mrs. Eddy and all the sacrifices she gave so that we could have this science and for this church.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. I appreciate very much the healing message tonight. I wish to also express my gratitude for the lovely prelude. That was absolutely outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Recently, a family member shared with me an experience that she and her family had on Thanksgiving Day. She told me that their family and a few friends went to a restaurant for a Thanksgiving lunch. They had a long wait, so periodically her sister would check to see how much time had passed and how far down they were on the list. One time when she went to talk to the hostess about that, she overheard a young woman who was standing in front of her ask the hostess, how long would she have to wait for a party of one? And the hostess told her at least an hour and a half, maybe 2. My relative asked the young woman if she would like to have lunch with her and her family. She told the young woman that their party were 7 people, and usually the restaurant would give them a table for 8, so there would be no problem for her to join them. It was reported to me that the young woman's eyes filled with tears at this kindness, and she thanked my relative and did join them for lunch. She told them she was from another state and just accepted an internship at a company nearby. My relative said they had a wonderful time and that after lunch was over, she and her husband paid for this young woman's lunch. They said her eyes filled with tears at their generosity. The relative who initially invited her to lunch gave the young woman her telephone number and told her to call her any time. This was just a wonderful proof to me of how God meets our needs, how God provides His love for us all. It's like a pebble thrown into a pond where the ripples are so far-reaching. I'm so grateful to be able to share this tonight. I'm grateful for this healing service, and I'm truly grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Shahidat from Maryland. Go ahead.
Good evening. I would like to express my gratitude tonight for all the wonderful articles that are available on our church website. Last week there was an article on Soul and Body by Peter V. Ross. And I love how he mentions in the article that we shouldn't refer to the body at all, but it's consciousness. And I think about my consciousness being the consciousness of God. It's just a great healing thought. And I want to express how thankful I am to have these articles available to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty from California. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the readings and for the music tonight. Tonight I am grateful for angel messages found in unexpected places. Last week, while looking through some Christmas catalogs, I saw a small blanket, the kind that's called a throw, with wildflowers and a saying on it that said, I think I'll just be happy today. When I saw that, I thought, how simple. I can just be happy with no justifications, no reasons. I can simply choose each day to be happy. In the beingness of joy, you don't need to have or do something to make you happy. You already are, and so everything makes you happy. And then I thought, this could be done with gratitude. Today, I think I'll just be grateful for everything. For the air we breathe, for sidewalks, for pencils, for life, truth, and love. No need to work so hard at it, trying to figure out, listing really good things to be grateful for. If I am just grateful for everything, especially God who is all in all, it suddenly becomes a whole lot easier and joyous, a bit like Scrooge waking up on Christmas morning. I'm very grateful for the Plainfield Church, Christian Science Church Independent, for practitioner help, for Christian Science, and for unexpected angel messages. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I also am very grateful for this church and the wonderful things that I've learned here. And I was on the church website reading an article called Want versus Need by Clarence Chadwick. And I just felt that was such a wonderful article. And it reminded me that I have something very specific to be very thankful to Christian Science in this church for, and that is the release of wanting things. I know this is the Christmas time, and I know there's all kinds of messages throwing out at everybody saying, essentially, you want this. The only thing we really want is to feel the power and presence of Almighty God. I can remember one time years ago when we had a class in this church, and our teacher came out with this very simple statement where she said, God made man satisfied. That's an absolute statement of truth about each and every one of us, every single one. So this whole idea of being tricked into wanting things is not such a good, healthy thing. And I find it very helpful myself to keep this in mind, especially this time of year. Like I said, there's so many influences out there telling you what you really want. What I really want is just to know that God is here. He's with each and every one of us and made everyone satisfied. And that's the truth. So I'm so thankful for Christian Science. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. I am deeply grateful to be a member of this church. When I found it on the internet, I was basically lost with 4 years of clinical depression. I had found Christian Science as an adult, having grown up in the Episcopal Church. But even though I went through class instruction and attended 3 different Christian Science churches here, I'd never really gotten any help with Christian Science. I'm so grateful for all the teaching at Plainfield and the ever-available help of my practitioner. And finding Plainfield brought me back to life. And in praying and studying Christian Science, I have seen more and more of the good in the world. On a brief trip last week to be with family for Thanksgiving, my husband and I were on the train, not too steady on our feet, and a young woman was sitting right on the other side of the aisle from us. And she suddenly produced small packets of raisins and nuts, which she gave to each one of us. Then, in a little while, she said she wanted to go to the cafe car to pick up the sandwiches we were planning to go buy. And she got our bags down from overhead when we were leaving. I told her as we were leaving, I knew she was an angel. Thank you for the very helpful readings tonight.
Thank you. Barbara or Ken, go ahead.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the very nourishing readings on a subject I need to understand more about. Even the theme, God's man is always in his right mind, was comforting and helpful. I'm grateful as well for a Plainfield practitioner for helping me get through some tough times and to improve my thinking in the process. Thanks as well to all who contributed to this service in any way and for the wonderful testimonies. And thank you, God, for the whole kit and caboodle.
Thank you. Chardell.
Oh, good evening, and thank you for those reading on God's man always being in his right mind and our beautiful, wonderful music. Tonight, I would like to share an experience that came about due to learning more about prayer as taught here at Plainfield. While traveling here to Plainfield, we exit on a freeway to enter another highway, and the exit had many, many potholes. I gave this some thought, but decided it required specific prayer, the kind that is taught here in our church and in the readings. It seemed righteous that the roadways should be safe for the cars and trucks and not cause damage to them. I held to this thought for a little while, and the next time we came upon this exit, many of the holes had been filled in, and we had smooth sailing. Also today, one entire section of the exit had been repaved. I am very grateful to know that a good prayer is never unanswered, and that many people and vehicles benefited from this prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori from Virginia, go ahead.
I want to give thanks. After finding Plainfield a few months ago, I had been working anew in Christian Science with the YouTube readings the day before Thanksgiving, which was my last day at a job that I'd been there 20 years. The fear of joblessness was such that I knew I had to turn completely to God. I was working with a Plainfield practitioner. I started spending hours each day in prayer. My practitioner recommended hymn 391. These parts were really powerful for me. Why search the future and the past? Why do you look with tearful eyes and seek far off for paradise? Before your feet life's pearl is cast. And of all that was and is to come, the present holds the mind and cause. For God lives in eternal laws, and here today upholds love's throne. I took this little piece of paper with hymn 391 on it with me all day long for several days. I came to see the fear was actually only in the past and the future. God is always and only in the eternal now. There is never any fear in the present, and God's love is always there. Tuesday, I went to a hiring event for holiday deliverers. I was hired on the spot at a decent wage. Other problems which could have been very costly with my house turned out to be nothing. Another proof of God's supply. In turning completely to God, things come up to be handled, and God's way is being made clear. I no longer have fear or a sense of how I want it to work out. I give it to God, only wanting to do God's bidding, knowing by God's law of adjustment, even if I decide wrong, with right intent, it will be lovingly corrected. I'm so grateful for God's love and expert care. I'm so grateful for this church's teaching of the Christ and true Christian Science. I'm so grateful for my practitioner who always reminds me that God loves me, has always completed what I have asked for, and has the perfect place and plan for me.
Thank you. Craig.
I really thank God for readings today. They just make me grateful to be here, and that just like I hear, it's open for everyone. And nowhere else have I ever felt that I could have a mind that could be renewed, refreshed, or done anything with. I was just stuck with whatever I had. But through Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy and the practitioners, we see that whatever is not right can be just wiped away because it's not from God. And we can learn about what I am and what God made. Learn that true inspiration is knowing and obeying God, and that I don't have to live in just hope, but God has straight laws, and there's a direction, and there's a guide, and it all comes through. It comes clearer through Christian Science, and the wonderful lessons that we have that teach us and truly guide us step by step along our lives of doing what's right and uplifting others. And it really has made the greatest difference. I couldn't imagine being a parent without God. It seems so many things are new and fresh, and I don't know what to do. It's just remember thing I was told once, just do the best you can. And it's true, God works everything else out. If you pray and you do the best you can, it never works out badly. thank God for that, and I'm seeing the results of that. It's beautiful to be among people that all feel the same way, and it's a blessing on this world. Hymn 202, always love since I came here, and it seemed like I was the dreamer. It says, "O dreamer, leave thy dreams for joyful waking." Once you connect with this church, you do wake up and you realize that there's a definite path to travel in this, and it's God directed, and it's wonderful. It's just that it's not about trying to do right, but God has a perfect plan, and it can be accomplished. And we've seen it throughout in our work. So I thank God for bringing me and helping me stay here, making me strong enough to stay. Because just like the lesson says, the tempter's out there to make you doubt and to think that there's something else to be satisfied with. You got to reach out for, but you need to. But if you're going to do something, you need to do the whole thing. You need to do it right. God's not finished with us. He has a lot of good for us to do, and I can't be distracted. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda from Missouri, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful for a very rapid healing I had recently with the help of a practitioner in this church. And since I was a child, I have experienced debilitating headaches at times, and I've spent a lot of time being afraid of these headaches coming on, and it seemed I had no control over them when they would come on. And before coming to this church, I had gone to a doctor and tried different prescription medications, but nothing helped, and some even made the problem worse. So I had somewhat adapted to having them and just thought I would continue to do so. And I'd had them so long that while it seems so very obvious now, it took my practitioner to wake me up to the fact that these headaches should not be continuing. They had no law, no truth, no nothing behind them. And these headaches have lessened in both frequency and severity in proportion as my fear of them has lessened, and in working with some of these ideas, these truths that my practitioner has shared. And I recently had the thought that it had been such a long time since I had been troubled by headaches in any way. And wouldn't you know that shortly thereafter, I woke up in the middle of the night with the symptoms of a severe headache coming on. And I felt that I did need some help and reached out to my practitioner. And as she always consistently does, she responded very quickly that she was there, she was praying for me, she was supporting me, but more importantly, she reminded me of the truth she had told me, that this progress could not relapse, there could be no return of old beliefs, of old fear, of none of this nonsense. And I could actually feel her start to go to work for me. And I was overcome with such a strong sense of peace, and the thought came so clearly to rest in the truth of what she had claimed, and that when it was time for me to get up, I could do whatever I needed to do. And I had a very early morning, and I'm thankful to say that even though it was only an hour or two before I had to get up, I did rest and thought about what she had said, and the symptoms lifted and lessened. And when it was time to get up and start the day, they were completely gone. All symptoms of pain had left. And in the past, these complaints could last a day or two or three. I have such tremendous gratitude for this church and our practitioners and all of the workers, and of course to Mary Baker Eddy. Elizabeth, thank you so much for your readings tonight and to all contributing to and supporting our service. Good night.
Thank you. Suzanne from Vermont, go ahead.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you for this wonderful service, the beautiful readings, and how much this church has meant to me over the last 16 years now. I feel that I've learned so much, and the teachings here have brought me into my rightful mind. And I look forward to learning more every day feeling progress every day and actually delight in challenges that come my way because I know it's forcing me to grow. I really appreciate all that this church has done for me and my family and friends, and especially for giving me a backbone and allowing me to share Christian Science with as many people, friends, and family that I can possibly share it with, because it is the greatest gift that Mrs. Eddy's discovery, the greatest gift she has given to us. Thank you for the readings, for the service, and the teachings, and just for all the resources that are available to us through our wonderful website. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael from California, go ahead.
Thank you for the readings. I just wanted to give my gratitude to this church for the way that I've been able to live Christian Science much more than I ever had previously, even though I had been raised in the Christian Science churches. Just a short time that I've been with Plainfield, just every day now, there's some way and somehow that I'm applying it, and I realize just sometimes how much progress has been made, and it hasn't been that long. And today, for instance, I was running late to work, and I was taking a shuttle from this one transit hub, and when I was about to leave, the driver started socializing with another worker instead of driving us, and I could feel the irritation building up in myself, and at some point I almost considered sort of giving the person a piece of my mind, so to speak, but I calmed down, and I, just like I've always been able to find something useful in the Plainfield on the website, there's this one article by Bicknell Young, Day, that I've been using, and I started just delving deeply into that. And finally, we started leaving, and I just really got into the whole concept of no dominion of time over you, and really working with that, and everything he says in that article about God's day basically being already established, everything already perfect, and everything already set. And so there isn't anything that can interfere with that, that can alter that, that can delay anything. Everything is in its perfect place essentially in the rhythm of spirit. And I'm just paraphrasing, but I got so much out of it in the short time that I was in that commute, that when I realized that I was arriving on time, and despite the delays and the traffic, everything worked out perfectly. And I just realized that I had to share that this Wednesday. And I just progress every day, and just so grateful for practitioner support, for the church, for everyone that's part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence, go ahead.
On page 179 of the Blue Book, Mrs. Eddy has something there that is so important. He says that, have no will opposed to God. Meekness is not weakness. It is not my will, but thine be done, throwing ourselves into God's power. This counsel is so important and it can be one of the best lessons we can put into practice. It has taught me that it means I have finally seen God as all in all, that whatever he says is mine as his child. Letting go, though, can be very difficult when listening to the pulling down thoughts that come, making us doubt God, making us fearful. But I have learned that this surrendering really doesn't mean giving something away or giving something up. Rather, it means that I am giving all to God's perfect plan. It's very comforting and has been very assuring to me. One writer comments on this surrendering this way, that there comes a time when you must do that with everything or you lose out. And yes, there does come a time, I'm sure many of us are finding out, when we must surrender all, ourselves, business, careers, relationships, homes, children, to that perfect plan of God. And I know that when we do that, we find peace. Peace because finally we have made God absolutely in control of our lives. Thank God. Thank Mrs. Eddie, Christ Jesus. And thanks for the readings tonight and the music. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary.
Good evening. I have a few things to read tonight. First, from our church website bulletin board, Georgia. Thank you, Jim, for your testimony last Wednesday on site. So grateful that since this claim of dimming eyesight is so advertised that one can easily accept its reality as part of aging. Thanks for proving this so-called tenacious lie to be a lie. Your example of living this science is felt and is an encouragement for all of us. I love the joy with which you share your testimonies. In one of Mrs. Eddy's letters, she said, "I've learned how to make my science a thing of life and not words." She also said in that same letter, "To change the picture, one must change the thought which produces the picture." Very grateful for all you do. And then Pennsylvania, wonderful Bible study today, and wonderful to have it the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so needed as the holiday season begins. California, clicked on the link given on the Plainfield website under Noteworthy News on the homepage. Listened to the interview. It was amazing, as was the prayer given for those devastated by the fires in California. So inspiring, leaving no doubt that the effectual prayer of a righteous man availeth much. James 5. Also that this experience can be a revival, turning people back to God. So grateful for this article and recording. She's referring to someone in California in the middle of the wildfires who was praying for her ranch, praying the 91st Psalm, and the fire stopped. All around her ranch, it stopped, and all her horses and land were protected. It shows the wonderful power of God when we turn to Him in prayer. And then Illinois, I have been working with the 10 Commandments, most recently the 9th commandment, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." This commandment just freed me from a toxic and stifling social situation from which I did not know how to leave. Thankfully, God's principle was in control and provided the perfect opportunity for me to separate myself from the group. This morning, Divine Mind unfolded to me that my acceptance of illness, disease, and discord in any child of God is bearing false witness against them. I will not be disobedient to God. I feel such a sense of relief and peace. Know that divine ideas appear to us in perfect form and that God and man are one inseparable being. Trust God. His plan is in effect and results in health, peace, love, and joy. And then Pennsylvania. I would like to offer my thanksgiving gratitude to the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. This holy church is a beacon of truth and love to the world, a place where God comes first because of Mrs. Eddy and her discovery of the Christ science, a place to find true worship and work for all that God has to offer, a place to study and learn and share, a grand place, and I am grateful. And then England. I did manage to listen to your Thanksgiving service as it was happening, and was so grateful for the testimonies from far and wide, but I am afraid I did not manage to send in my own vote of thanks in time. Nevertheless, I would like to tell all of you at Plainfield to let you know how grateful I am for all you provide, and I am most grateful to have found your church. I am grateful to have learned some of the early history of the church, which has been buried for those growing up in the mainstream branch churches, and for the writings of the early workers, which are giving me a much better appreciation for Mrs. Eddy and her commitment and selfish dedication to improving the lot of mankind. I am very grateful for your services, roundtables, and Bible studies, for your very kind practitioners' support, for all the work that goes into the preparing of the lessons, publications, and translations, for the music, including the beautiful handbells, and for all that you make so readily available on the internet. While recently watching the service of remembrance on television from central London to commemorate the end of the First World War, I thought again about the statement by one of the early workers which you have on your website, that Mrs. Eddy, through prayer, was able to hold back this war for several years. This is such a powerful thought that it does need to be more widely known so that she is better appreciated. I am continuing to read and to work with the 91st Psalm and to find more ways to be loving to all I meet. I am very grateful for the opportunity to grow in understanding. And then a new name from Texas. With gratitude, I am sending you this gift. She sent a donation. My husband and I both have found your website very helpful. We appreciate all the works of Mary Baker Eddy. May God bless you all. Very grateful tonight for this meeting. The beautiful prelude and hymns by our organist, Jim. How great thou art and how great our God is. Just so inspiring to hear that being played on the organ with his loving touch. I'm grateful to hear all the beautiful healings that are going on in our church, to realize God's presence and power are with us all. And for those readings about our consciousness, that God is our mind. Here we've been taught in the morning, first thing, to know that God is mind, God is my mind, God is the only pure and perfect mind. And to keep aligned during the day with that mind, to be aware of what we're thinking, and to only accept the thoughts from God, the loving, true thoughts from God, and not to let any of the negative, fearful thoughts come in. We have an article that's been on our website that I have found most helpful by Herbert Eustace, entitled, How Does Malicious Mind Operate? And he says in that article, it is the part of wisdom to keep every channel open for information. You have a right to know all that is going on about you. You do not delve into error, but you keep your avenues of intelligence open. So all that you should know, you do know at exactly the right time. In other words, as Mrs. Eddy says in Miscellaneous Writings, let us open our affections to the principle that moves all in harmony, from the falling of a sparrow to the rolling of a world. Nothing is either too insignificant or too important for you to know if it is right for you to know, and you cannot know it if it is not right. You must realize this, for evil suggestions is quite as likely to fill you with a lot of unnecessary trash as to stop you from knowing that which you should know. Always be on your guard. I remember Bicknell Young talks about in an article about memory that we do know all we need to know, but he also says it's important to have a forgettery, because sometimes there are things it is good to forget. As past problems, past illnesses, to let them know it was never the truth about you. Let them go. Just remember the enduring the good and the true, as Mrs. Eddy says. I'm so grateful for this helpful instruction. Dear Mrs. Eddy, giving us all that she has. Thank God for this church. Grateful to be with you all tonight.
Thank you.